After the difficult discipline of allowing the bruise, a question naturally arises from the quiet. If our role is not to interfere, not to rescue, not to preach or persuade, then what is it? If we cannot force growth in another, what is the nature of our influence? This episode rests on a simple, profound premise. Perhaps our highest and most potent form of service is not in what we say or do to others, but in what we become. Our role is to live as an example. This goes far beyond moral posturing or being a good person. It is the active daily embodiment of the principles we've traced along the spiral. The peace of the observer, the clarity of discernment, the weight of conscience choice, the fierce compassion of the wizard's code. By integrating these into the fabric of a life, into our reactions, our relationships, our work, our quiet moments, we do something remarkable. We create a living foothold in the sheer cliff face of existence. We become a solid point of reference, a proof of concept etched not in doctrine but in being. For those navigating their own climb, such a foothold is not a command to climb here. It is a silent, available fact. Here, this is possible. This way holds. An integrated life becomes a silent invitation. It doesn't argue for a different path. It is a different path, made visible. The magic of this approach is that it operates on a frequency beyond words. It is about becoming a stable, coherent vibration in a world often humming with dissonance. People may argue with a belief, deconstruct a philosophy, or resist a sermon. But it is harder to argue with a lived presence of calm in a storm, with consistent integrity under pressure, with a joy that isn't dependent on external conditions. We stop telling people about the path and simply walk it visibly, making the map real through the terrain of our own being. This concept of exemplification is the oldest and most respected form of spiritual leadership. It is leadership not by authority, but by authenticity. The Chinese sage Lao Tzu, author of the Tao Te Ching, famously said, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim is fulfilled. They will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" This is the invisible guidance of the example. The true leader aligns themselves with the Tao, the way, and by their very alignment, they make the way more accessible, more tangible for others. They don't pull people along. Their presence makes the path clearer. In the Buddhist tradition, this is the meaning of Bodhisattva, a being who vows to postpone their own final nirvana until all sentient beings are liberated. But how does a Bodhisattva help? Not by granting wishes or removing obstacles, but by embodying the qualities of enlightenment, compassion, wisdom, and skillful means. In the world, their very existence is a reminder of the potential within all beings. They are a living foothold on the path to awakening. We see this powerfully in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. His political action was inseparable from his personal spiritual practice of truth, force, and non-violence. He didn't just preach non-violent resistance, he lived it. In his ascetic lifestyle, in his response to brutality, in his fasting, he became the embodiment of the change he sought. His power wasn't in an army, but in the undeniable integrity of his example, which provided a moral foothold for a nation and inspired movements across the globe. He demonstrated that the most revolutionary act could be the consistent alignment of one's life with a principle. This moves us from the realm of teaching to the realm of resonance. Modern understandings of mirror neurons in neuroscience suggest that we are wired to internalize and mimic the emotional and intentional states of those around us. When we observe someone acting with calm courage, parts of our own brain associated with those states light up. We don't just see their peace, we experience a micro version of it ourselves. A lived example, therefore, doesn't just instruct, it transmits a state of being. It offers a direct, non-verbal download of a possible frequency. The masters of old mastered his art of silent transmission. In Zen, there is the concept of shinkyo, or teaching through the body. The master's posture in meditation, their mindful movement during their walking medication, their precise, attentive gestures during tea ceremony, all of these are teachings. The student learns not by lecture, but by absorbing the embodied state of the master. The master's stillness becomes a foothold for the student's own discovery of stillness. The desert fathers and mothers of early Christian monastic offered wisdom not in thick theological tracts, but in the way they lived in radical simplicity and prayer in the Egyptian desert. Seekers would travel great distances to ask for a word. Often the elder would offer only a simple lived action or a cryptic phrase that embodied a truth. Their power was in their being, not their explaining. Their lives were not the primary text. To become such an example requires relentless integrity, the alignment of thought, word, and action. It means walking your talk until the talk becomes unnecessary. It is the opposite of spiritual branding or performance. It is the often quiet, sometimes unglamorous work of cleaning up one's own inner world so thoroughly that the reflection one casts into the outer world is clear. This doesn't mean being perfect. In fact, an authentic example includes the humility of acknowledging missteps and the wisdom gained from them. It shows a spiral in motion, not a static statue at the summit. It shows the process of return to center after being off center, which is often more relatable and inspiring than a facade of unflappable perfection. The ultimate magic of the example as foothold is that it respects the sovereignty of others absolutely. It doesn't grab their hand and place it on the rock. It simply is the rock available. The other climber may see it, recognize its stability, and choose to use it for their own ascent in their own time. Or they may not. The foothold's value is intrinsic. It does not depend on being used. In this way, our work on ourselves becomes our greatest gift to the whole. By tending our own fragment of this spiral with consciousness and care, we polish it until it reflects light. That reflected light doesn't tell others where to go. It simply makes the surrounding darkness less absolute. It provides a point of orientation. We stop trying to be the guides who lead the way and instead become landmarks by which others can find their own way.